everyone, welcome to the Life of a Latina Engineer. Today we have a very special guest, it's Gina Moreno. She has been part of Latina Engineer Conference last year and she talked to us about professional development. So I wanted to invite her here again to talk about these topics, talk about the jobs that you have, if you're planning to move, when it's time to move. And yeah, I'm gonna let her introduce herself.
Hey everyone, so nice to be here, Diana. Thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Gina Moreno. I'm a first-gen graduate from my family and first-gen in the United States. I acquired my bachelor's in industrial engineering and my master's in systems engineering. And throughout college, my number one priority was to get a job. I did not want to be struggling. So now I'm super passionate about teaching others a lot of things about professional development that I didn't know. And yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Gina E Moreno _ TikTok, Gina E Moreno. And so glad to be here. I'm excited for our topics.
Yes, and if you like this topic and you want to see more on this, like professional development, jobs, internships and things like that, like this video so that we know, and maybe we can also bring Gina back for other things or for the conference, so let us know what you like to see next. All right, and with that, Gina, I'll let you get started.
Awesome. So today we're going to be covering two big topics that I get questions about all the time, and there's no shame on it. We're all traveling our career journeys in our own ways, and the two things are, one, the hints that you should be looking for a new job or that it's time to find a new experience, and number two is how to better understand where you want to go in your career. So now that we've introduced the two topics that we're going to cover, I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper and just look forward to this conversation with Diana. So Diana, please feel free to introduce the topics.
Yeah, and again, before we go in, if you have any questions, like put them in the comments, and I'm pretty sure either her or me will be able to get back to you as you're watching this. So the first one is not growing.
Yeah, so that's the number one hint that you know that you should be moving on, or it's time to move on when you are not growing. So I think I really want to talk about the misconception that you need to be in your job a certain amount of time to be able to learn everything that you want to learn. I think I agree with people that say like, oh, you need to be in your job, for a year and a half for you to learn everything that you need to learn. Yes, that is true. I think there's a certain amount of time that you need in a job to be able to fully grasp it. However, I don't agree that you need to stay in that job for a year and a half if you don't want to. Because it might be where you don't want to further develop your skills in that specific area. And I'll give a quick example. So when I started my career, I started as a technical account manager, which is a lot of sales support and customer facing work. And although I did know that I needed at least a year and a half to truly understand and fully grasp what I was doing, I knew that I didn't want to further develop my skills in that because I wanted to go back to being technical and being like in the software engineering and program management side. So I decided to just kind of step back at 1 year and 3 months. And by the way, like I didn't get a job right away, right? So you need to kind of prepare for these things and think in advance, how much time do I need to start looking? And most of the time it's going to be where you need to start, when you start feeling the hinge, I want to say like it's going to take you like 3 to 5 months to find a new job. So really what I'm trying to say, it's never too early.
Yeah, and I think another thing with this is like, for example, with me, I went into engineering for the challenge. I wanted to feel a challenge in learning. So if you come to the point where you're just kind of like, I already know everything, like, I don't feel like I'm growing, like what the point is. It's like, maybe, yeah, it is time that maybe you outgrew that position and you're ready to move on to the next one. Would you like me to move on to the next point?
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so the next one is culture does not fit.
Yes. Oh my God. And I'm going to say that after every single point. I'm going to be like, yes. Even if it's the content that we created. That's so hilarious. But I truly think culture is such a big part of our jobs, right? I think we need to be in empowering settings that allow us just to grow the most that we can as professionals, right? We want to reach our full potential. So culture is not just about like acceptance and diversity and inclusion. It's also about like, are the people that I'm around with enable me to grow? And I think it's a very hard thing to face, right? I think it's like not easy to ask yourself those questions. But I think if you want to be in a fostering environment, it's definitely an audit that you definitely need to think retrospectively, like, hey, like, is the environment that I'm in the optimal for my growth? And it could be where Diana was saying that it is optimal for your growth for a certain amount of time. Like, let's just say you do the job for a year and a half, you think you're growing, you think it's fostering you, and then after that year and a half you say, hey, like, I think I learned what I need to do and this environment is not fostering me. And I think that's like half of the battle. Do you have anything to add there, Diana?
Yes, with us being Latinas, females in engineering, that most of the time we're surrounded with mostly men. So I think this, environment that we're working on day to day has a lot to do with the confidence that we have with trying new things, learning new things. That if you're in somewhere where people don't really think that you could do it, or even if they don't say it, but you know that they might treat you differently because you are a minority or they're not used to having such a young Latina in that position, then it's eventually gonna show on that either you're not gonna feel comfortable or confident, and it is like a very big sign that maybe you shouldn't be there because it's not letting you grow.
Yes, that's like, I think you just jumped right into it, and I totally agree with it. Like, I think half of it is like, are these people empowering me? But the other half is like, do I feel comfortable in the workplace? And that's like a whole monster to take on, right? And I think we're just so used to like not, we're used to being the only women, we're used to being the only Latina women, and that's fine. Like that's I think what we'll be facing for a little bit amount of time. We're doing a lot of work to bring diversity, but I think there's a difference between feeling like you're the only one and then feeling like your voice doesn't matter, right? Like feeling like you can't do what you want to do because people think badly of you, and that's not precisely the environment that you want to be in.
Exactly. I think that's one of the things that has let me grow as in my first job, feeling that I'm welcome, feeling that I'm treated like another engineer. Like if I was anyone else that had walked through the door, if I had looked any different, it wouldn't have mattered. So definitely something that I looked for, and it's really important when looking for a new position, a new job. I'm gonna move into the next point, which is interested in expanding other areas.
So I encounter a lot of my friends and a lot of peers coming to me because they are so overwhelmed with everything that they want to do that they end up not doing anything because they feel that if they choose to further expand themselves in one area, that's like saying no to everything else. And that is not the case. There's plenty of ways you can mitigate this. You can either find a job that fulfills a lot of your interest, like you can go into an industry that interests you but also do a job that's very different, or you can do one thing at a time. I think one of the things that I really love about my current manager is that he truly calmed me down. He was like, girl, like you are in your early career. You have all your career to explore all of your different things, and that is okay. Like you're not committing to the definition of your career when you choose one job.
And a lot of the times we have flexibility with what we take. At least that's what I feel like with the experience that I've had. Like my job combines mechanical and manufacturing, because I told them, my background is in mechanical. I'm going to learn everything manufacturing. And since I have the skills, if they ever need me, like right now, I'm dividing my time between manufacturing and design, which is super cool. Like I don't get to leave either or. And even with other jobs, you can start deleting, like, can I bring this into my job? Can this be part of my task? And things like that. And I think as far as I know, that's acceptable. That's like something you can work out, like start customizing it to what works for you as your job.
Yes, that's why good leadership is so important. If you have the space to be able to express like what you're interested in and what you're looking to do with your career, it just gives free range to what your day-to-day job can look like. And it's so awesome that you've had that opportunity, Diana.
Yeah, I love it, honestly. I like that combination. So it's something that I recommend. Like, there has to be a job out there that lets you combine or do with specifically what you want to do. Like, don't feel like there's all these jobs that strictly, like, yeah, there's gonna be jobs that are gonna cover what you don't like, but there's also a lot of jobs out there that are gonna do exactly what you're good at or what you want to learn on, or a combination.
Yeah, and use this to your advantage. If you think you have an interest that doesn't necessarily pair with the job that you're doing, use it as leverage and use it as your advantage. I got recommended a book that I talk about all the time with my friends. It's called The Medici Effect. I was recommended this book by someone who has, like, I don't know how many years in the field, like 25, 30 years in technology. And she is a great mentor, and she told me, read this book because I feel you have so many interests that you don't have barriers between the things that interest you. And when you can learn how to communicate, hey, this is another thing that I'm interested in, and this is how it can help us here, you're going to be a superstar, because chances are they haven't heard of that thing or they've never implemented that way, and that's one way for you to bring value.
Yes, so if you identify with any of these 3 points, or maybe you're getting out of college and you're looking for a new job, our next point is going to focus on where to start, where to go, how to approach this. So go for it, Gina.
Yes, it's like I mentioned, it's a huge monster to be able to dissect what you want. And I think, again, like, it's okay to be overwhelmed. Like, it's okay not to know what you want. The point of this video is not really to tell you, like, this is your time to establish what you want right now and, like, let us know what you want. It's not like that, right? Like, it's a process. It's a process that's going to take time. And just be patient and compassionate with yourself. Like, that's the caveat, like, before we jump into it.
Yeah, because, like, honestly, you're not gonna decide everything in one sitting. When you study your career, that is not gonna define that your job strictly is gonna be this. So don't worry about, feeling that you're gonna be stuck with something forever.
Yes, and throughout this process, what I'm trying to portray is that you have to figure out your non-negotiables, what you're willing to give up and what you're not willing to give up. There are certain things that we just really, really want to incorporate, and that's okay. Like, let's have that in the forefront. So the first recommendation that we have for you is to reflect on your values and your priorities. So there's plenty of things that can go under this category, but the reason why I say reflect on your values first is because that's going to be a compass as to what are the other things that matter to you. So one example that I have in my 5 values is my family. So if I have my family in the forefront of my values, I want to make sure that my job somehow aligns to that family value, whether it be like be close to where they live, or whether the value be have a high salary so I can help my family. It affects people in different ways, but the point that I'm trying to portray is the connection between your values and your priorities.
And some of the questions that you can ask in terms of finding your priorities are the company, position, salary, location, culture, and advancement or education.
Yes, all of these are super important to be aware of. When I was going out of college and looking for a job in the workforce, I literally did a spreadsheet with all of these, like the company, position, salary, location, culture, and advancement opportunities. And the reason why I repeat it is because I think those are the major categories. And so we can dive in a little deeper into each of them. So for example, the first 2 are company and position, right? How important is it for you to have a large company versus a small company? There are pros and cons to both of them. It just depends what you deem to be important. And also the position, right? Are you trying to do a particular job, or is it more important for you to be in a company that develops those products? So for example, if you're a mechanical engineer, is it more of a priority for you to have a mechanical engineering job, or to be in an engineering company, regardless of what specific role you have?
Yeah, and I think once you move into the third one, which is salary, I think we usually tend to focus on these 3 mostly as we come off out of college. But just the fact that if we're able to focus on everything at once, not just like, looking at the company, like I've always wanted to work for John Deere or like Dell or Microsoft, and maybe also looking at all the other things together, just to help you pick like exactly what you're looking for, and not just go out kind of like, oh, because this company I've heard is great, and then go in and be like not what you expect.
Exactly. And jumping into salary, like this is a really big one, and I'm a huge advocate for always negotiating your salary. And one way you can know if you're being paid fairly is to look up the salaries in LinkedIn Salaries and other engines that give you a range. I think it's a very taboo topic, but if you're willing to be transparent with your friends and peers, I think it's just a step further to ensure that you're being paid correctly, and just different jobs will yield different opportunities. So for example, when I took the job with Microsoft, it was lower than other offers that I had, but I was willing to take that hit, quote unquote, because I was willing to take it because of the company, because I was like, okay, like, yes, it's a little lower, but the company's going to bring me more opportunity. So it's not precisely salary at this point in time, but the opportunity of advancement, which is another bullet point.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you can see it that way, but as well as not being scared of asking for, I think, what you're looking for, what you need, or what you deserve. Like, for example, if your job is not, maybe it's not the salary that you're looking for, but you know that all these other positions or people that have the same position have a higher salary than what you're being offered, and you have kind of like that backup, that you have the research that you know these positions maybe make more, and you ask for them. Like that's happened in my case. Like I was offered a certain amount, and I had the research that, you know, what I was expecting for, as you know, I've coming out of college engineer, and I wasn't afraid of asking for more, and in return I did get that salary, you know, up to what I was asking for, when if I had just been too scared to ask or research or anything, it would have just happened. I would have been like, oh, okay, and that's it.
Yeah, and one of the favorite quotes for me and Diana is feel fear and do it anyway, right? Like
Yes.
Do things in spite of fear. Okay, so we sound very confident when we say like ask for more money, like ask for what you deserve, but that doesn't mean we're not over here scared to do it, right? Like we are scared, like we are truly scared, but that it's just like our want and our desire to get what we deserve is just higher than our fear.
Yeah, and the worst thing you can get is a no. You know, like you're not gonna just be like, oh no, we won't hire you because you're there to ask for more money, you know, or anything like that.
Exactly. Okay, the next one is location. So in talking about our values, like I was saying, like is a value for you to be close to your family, or is a value for you to be in a big and exciting city? So I know since I majored in industrial engineering, a lot of the possibilities that I had for jobs was in manufacturing. And manufacturing plants are not always precisely in the biggest metropolis areas. So when I did my internships in Indiana and Missouri and a lot of really small towns, I was like, all right, so I like this internship, I like the job, but location is very important to me. I don't want to be in a town that is in the middle of nowhere. You know, I'm willing to be in a suburb. So for example, when I worked for Toyota in San Antonio, it's basically south of San Antonio, maybe half an hour from the city, and that I'm willing to do, okay? Like I'm half an hour from like a major city in Texas, that I can do. But when you're talking about like in the middle of nowhere town, very far away from my family, that's a personal choice that I'm choosing not to take, because I personally don't want that for me. So it just depends on how you see your priorities, and choosing the city that you want.
Yeah, definitely. I connect with that too. Like whether being closer to your family or going, you know, I even did it with college. You know, I didn't want to leave my family. I didn't want to be completely different, like other side of the country. And I decided, you know, I can study here and I'll be close, and I get, you know, I'm still getting the same education, and that was kind of like a priority that I made. Which same thing applies to your job.
Exactly. And one thing to add is just because you take a job in another location, or just because you stay close to home, doesn't mean that you always have to be there, or that you're confined to this for the rest of your career, right? As Diana was saying, like just because you choose one job, you're not going to be there forever. So for example, I know that I'm going to move into Seattle in a couple of months. I don't know at this point because of the pandemic. I would love to be in Seattle. I'm so excited to be there, but I'm also sure that that's not where I want to build my life, right? Like I'm willing to be there a couple of years of my life, but that's not not where I want to be long term. And so I think a lot of people shame away from doing things like just moving really far, just because they're scared, like, oh, that's going to be my life. Not necessarily, you know, like you never know what can happen.
You adjust as your life necessities change, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. And the last couple ones are culture. So for me, as a minority woman, the most important thing that I looked for in a job that had huge weight was culture. I really, really vetted companies by talking to them and asking them tough questions, which is definitely something that you can do. Like, what is your company doing to make diverse candidates feel included once they get hired? What's your retention strategy when you hire people who come from different backgrounds? And those are all fair questions to ask. And the opportunities that you have to ask that are during interviews, because it's much as an interview for you as it is for them. So I think it's important to ask those questions so that when you do go into the job, culture is really held up to the standard. And when I worked in aerospace and automotive, I think I was met with a really good culture from that standpoint of diversity and inclusion. But for me, the culture piece that I was wanting is to have a faster pace environment. So for me, like, I just needed two things to move faster for me to feel like I could grow in that environment. And that's what I looked for in a different industry.
Mm-hmm. So I think we're gonna cut here half of it because I believe this is really gonna turn into a 2-part video. So if you want to watch the next part of this, I guess, series, because it does tie back along to the video that we posted last time, come back next week and we'll have the second half. Thank you so much for watching this one, and we'll probably see you next week.